First and foremost, Beth considers herself as a human on a journey. Her degree as a medical doctor and board certified as an OBGYN mark her path. Her curiosity led her to become a teacher of mindfulness-based stress reduction and an Ayurvedic Yoga Health Coach. Most recently, she became certified in functional medicine, which felt like completing the circle to her undergrad degree in biochemistry. Ladies, I have a real treat for you today with my discussion with Dr. Beth. As you can hear, she has a very unique approach. She has multiple different tools in her toolbox, so please stay tuned. You're listening to Menopause Natural Solutions, episode 126, The Menopause Connection with Dr. Beth Claxton. Welcome to Menopause Natural Solutions, your podcast for all things perimenopause, menopause and beyond. Stay tuned as your host, naturopath Jennifer Harrington, explains how to use natural therapies to find your ultimate health and happiness during your transition. So Beth, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
And I'm so excited to have you here because I've never had an OBGYN on the podcast. It's going to be very, very interesting. But you have such a unique set of skills. Starting off with being a medical doctor, then getting board certified to be an OBGYN. What then led you off the path to mind-based stress reduction?
Oh, that was very interesting. I'd started dabbling in meditation. And then at our clinic, they offered a shortened version of the MBSR course to providers. And I went to it and I was amazed at how it was streamlined to be taught to anyone and how effective it was and the changes that I was seeing in my colleagues. And I knew that this was huge. I could really see like this could change the medicine that I practice. And it was a long road I remember the day that I signed up for the initial course. I think they started taking calls maybe at 6 a.m. I got up early. I called in 6 a.m. and I was put on hold immediately. And I was on hold. I took a shower. I got ready for work. I ate my breakfast. I drove into work. I was still on hold. I was working in my clinic. Finally, someone picked up. It was 2.5 hours later and I got a spot and I was like, that's it. My journey's begun. I was so happy.
Wow. You obviously wanted to be in that course.
I did very, very much. It's been amazing to have that in my toolbox, to know that people who come in can really benefit from it, and then they take it, and then just watching them shift and the stress in their lives shift. I actually had a patient who brought her boyfriend at the time, and then they invited me to their wedding.
So life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then your next path led you off to the world of Ayurvedic medicine. So how did you go from then adding in meditation to your toolbox to then moving over to Ayurvedic medicine?
So that's a pretty classic perimenopausal story. So I had an ovarian mass. I was 40-something, early 40s. And I had a laparoscopy and had that ovary taken out. And afterwards, I was recovering at home, feeling pretty gross. I got a sinus infection from the general anesthesia, and I never get sinus infections, but I just looked in the mirror and I thought, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm 40 something and it's all downhill from here. And I went to pick up my daughter at ballet that afternoon, and a friend of mine from the yoga studio said, "Are you doing the detox with us this spring?" And I said, "Yes, I am. Tell me about it." That's exactly what I needed. So I did that Ayurvedic detox like so intensely and changed so much. I dropped at least 15 pounds in 3 weeks, and it was just inflammation. And probably about 2 or 3 weeks into it, I was at the grocery store, and a friend of mine from yoga, different friend, she was across the produce section. She like left her cart and walked over to me and said, "What happened?" And I said, "I did this detox." She said, "Oh my gosh." Like she could see, like everything had shifted. So that was great. That was a great testimonial that I was definitely on the right path. And so I contacted the person that was doing the Ayurvedic detox and talked to her about it. And she was starting this new program to teach coaches, to teach all those daily habits. They call them the Dinacharya in Ayurveda. And so I did her program there.
So how long ago was that now?
That must have been, I can't remember. Everything's kind of jumbled together. Early 2014, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 2014.
So with such a variety of tools in your toolkit, when a woman comes to see you, do you blend everything all in one appointment, or do you have different appointments for different things? How do you work it all out?
Well, when there's all that information in your brain, you can't really divide it up because you know that it all goes together. And that's what led me to functional medicine, is because I had all of this, and that was a way that I could work with all of that in my brain. And I would have people come in to the clinic when I was working in the traditional community health center, and they would say, "This is going on." And I'd say, "Okay. So as a Western doctor, I can tell you that I should give you birth control pills, and I have some other training. Do you want to hear more?" And they'd say, "Yes." I'd say, "Okay. So in Ayurveda, this is what they look at." And so then, I'd have these really committed clients that would just come back, and, they'd need to reschedule some appointments, and they'd say, "Oh, we're going to put you with Dr. So-and-so." And they would say, "Oh no, I'll wait." And that was great. And it wasn't a ton, but definitely a nice little collection, family of people that really could take what I had to offer and put it to good use. And then I could see that was really working for them. And so that was the feedback I needed, that I was on the right path.
You would definitely attract those that were looking for something else. That there's always multiple ways to look at a problem, and just the fact that you were willing to give them multiple options. I think women like to feel like they're in control and empowered in their health. And for you not saying, "This is the script, this is it," but you saying, "Look, if this is what you want, you can have that. But if you're open, if you want something else, there are these other options." And I know myself, I would love that. I would love to be able to have the choices put down on the table so I can choose what is right for me at that point in time. And that might be different tomorrow. But today, this is the choice I choose today. And knowing that if that doesn't work for me, or it's not the right fit for me, that there are other options. I can come back and go, "Well, we can scratch that one off the list. Let's move on to the next option." And that's, I think, very rare and very unique. And I'm glad that you're out there servicing.
Oh, thanks.
So where are you located? In case anyone's going, "I want to call up and make an appointment now."
I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is 70 miles from the Grand Canyon, 2 hours north of Phoenix. It's a small mountain town that actually has fire as part of our weather pattern. We've started having fires regularly, and it's part of life here now. But it's a lovely community. There's a university here, so it's a broad thinking, a lot of broad thinking and a lot of nature.
Sounds beautiful.
I'm
going to have to put it on my travel list, I think.
Okay, absolutely.
So I guess you did the full circle back to functional medicine that you've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's listening and they don't understand what is the difference between medicine and functional medicine, how would you describe the differences?
It's a completely different way of looking at a person. In Western medicine, we're taught to think in like lists with check boxes. Okay, someone's has irregular bleeding, so we're going to check for this. Check, not there. This, check, not there. This, check, not there. In functional medicine, you think in cogwheels. So, I remember waking up one day. It was like almost like that. Like I woke up one day and my brain was working in a different way. It wasn't like ticking the boxes or looking at the list of differential diagnoses or the list of things to try to treat it. It was this all encompassing, like if you looked at inside an old clock with all the wheels turning, it was just like that. Like this system affects this system and this system affects this system. And this cogwheel is not going to turn unless it has this. And then that needs to be affected. And so there's that way of thinking. But the other part, like you said, is meeting the person where they are. So, there were definitely people that came to me in Western medicine that did not want to know anything about anything alternative. Just give me the script. And that's where they were. And in a way, that's practicing functional medicine because you're meeting them, you're validating where they are. And some people, I usually start with an elimination diet, but there are people who have eating disorders and they want nothing to do with food regimens. Just, I'll do anything else, but I can't deal with being meticulous about my food right now because it triggers too many past experiences. And then there are people that exercise too much. There are people that don't exercise at all. And so for people that don't exercise at all, can you buy a pair of walking shoes? And then, yes, and just put those on every day. Just put them on. You don't have to go walking. Then they get used to it. So it's kind of like almost being a coach.
But it's a coach with all that extra knowledge. So you're just starting at the very beginning, at the baby steps. And that's what a lot of women want to know. Where do I start? How do I start? I know where my end goal is and it looks too far away. That mountain is too high to climb. But often when you put that first step in front of them and the second step and the third step, once they start getting some momentum, it's like that mountain's been climbed. They've conquered that. They're on to the next. But it's just that first gentle little nudge, that gentle little push that starts that ball in motion. And I like that you go back to the very beginning, that you don't go, no, I need you here. This is where it's like, no, we're meeting you where you are, as you said.
And the other part is looking at their whole lifetime. Like, how were they born? C-section, vaginal delivery, premature. Was their mother stressed? Was she in an abusive relationship when she was pregnant? All of that's going to affect everything about how they're presenting right now. Dietary habits growing up. It's all a part of the picture. And having the time, creating the time to be able to have that conversation with people is really important. Really important. And like you said, small steps. Gosh, those small steps. And then there's small steps and then there's backsliding. Like they go on vacation and then they come and they go, oh, I can't do this. I went on vacation and I just started eating whatever I wanted. I'm like, that is great. You have great information now. You know that's what happens when you eat like that. Or that's what happens when you don't get sleep. It just confirmed that for you. So that's knowledge. It's nothing bad.
It's also a good reminder is that for most of the time when they do backslide, this is how you used to feel. Do you want to go back to feeling like that all the time? Or do you remember how
Exactly.
good you felt before the holiday? I think I would prefer that as my reality moving forward. And it's good that they've experienced that good health before the
Mm-hmm.
backslide to then know, okay, definitely not doing this again. Next time I'm offered cake or whatnot, it's a no. I'm definitely on the better path.
And even if they get like a glimpse of like, I had this day where I felt really good, or I had this period where that was really light and then they started getting heavy again. Well, if that can happen, then we can find it again.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned time. How long are your average appointments? Doesn't sound like this is a 10-minute check-in.
I don't do those anymore.
Good to
It's
hear.
so nice. It's an hour.
Yeah.
An hour is a basic appointment. The first appointment is actually a 90-minute consultation. Before that appointment, they've sat down and spent 3 to 5 hours filling out questionnaires. We've ordered labs. I've spent time reviewing all the questionnaires. I've spent time reviewing the labs, putting pieces together. And then we come together, we sit down knee to knee and look at everything so that they understand how I'm thinking about it. And, they often say, oh, I totally forgot. I had this fall from a horse and I had a concussion when I was 17. Oh, let's add that in and see if that develops the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you need time to do that. So I'm glad that you've got the time. But people also feel validated. You're going in, I've spent all this time. Let's just focus on you and you alone and your story. So I love that. What, if we're looking at the menopausal transition, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, what are the most common gynecological conditions that you see at this time?
Weight gain, heavy periods, irregular periods, sometimes lighter periods, sleep disturbances, night sweats, memory loss, cognition, foggy thinking, short temper, digestive problems too.
Mm. So if we go back and look at the periods for a moment, you did mention that it can be heavier. There can be irregular periods. If a woman is coming to see you with irregular periods, heavy periods, what's some of the things that you would consider or discuss with her?
Well, generally the thing that causes heavy periods is what we call estrogen dominance, when estrogen and progesterone are out of balance. So as we age, when we're in our 20s, we make really lovely balanced hormone soups in our body. And after that, they start to become a little irregular, depending on a lot of different factors: genes, diet, exercise, lifestyle, stress factors. But usually when we're in our 40s, there are also toxins too, that can be a big part. But when we're in our 40s and we start to have these irregular symptoms, the ovaries are generally not making as much estrogen. We can miss ovulations and not make progesterone. We can have estrogens build up, and there just isn't that balance that we need with the progesterone. And those symptoms of estrogen dominance, they all kind of go together: endometriosis, heavy periods, painful periods, fibroids, even polyps. Those can all be manifestations of estrogen dominance. And it all depends on the genes, the person's genes, and how they filter out the things that's surrounding them, the environment, to cause these things. Because you've probably seen, everybody probably knows that if mom has fibroids, the daughter's more likely to have fibroids. If mom had a hysterectomy for heavy, painful periods, the daughter's going to have heavy, painful periods. It runs in families. It runs through the genes, how we are going to manifest these different signs of estrogen dominance.
But I do find there are some factors that don't necessarily run through families. Like if we're looking at if an individual has really bad digestive function, but maybe her mother didn't, maybe there's issues with glucodoneration and beta-glucodonerase. And for the listeners, if you don't know about this, when your estrogens are coming through the liver, if there's too much of it, the liver can glucodonerase it. It can add a glucose on top of the estrogen to get it ready for excretion. But if you've got dysbiosis, if you've got these bad bugs, they love sugar, they love glucose. So they produce beta-glucodonerase, which is like scissors. It chops off that glucose molecule so they can have a yummy, tasty meal. But then the glucose then, the estrogen then gets to recirculate. It doesn't end up getting excreted, and our estrogen levels can build. So definitely I agree with you with genetics. But I also feel that there's things that an individual can do in their life that is going to set them up for a poorer transition at this time of life, more hormonal imbalance. And like we know that things like smoking and drinking can also set you up for a tougher time than if you weren't.
And the perfumes and the scented products and the pesticides and the plastics. Oh my gosh, we have so much plastic in this country. Plastic. Yeah.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Mm-hmm.
So we've a woman was coming to see you. She does have these heavy periods. Where do you start? So you said that you normally start with an elimination diet, or is that for different things?
If someone came to my functional medicine clinic and had super heavy periods, I would start to look at the low-hanging fruit. Where are things doable? Where are things changeable? And I work looking at toxins to a point that they can do the changes. I don't want to bombard them with a bunch of information and they're paralyzed. So generally, a nice elimination diet will decrease inflammation, take out a lot of potential allergenic reactions like antibodies that are formed to foods, because it takes out the most common allergenic foods in our diet, and it gives the bowel a rest. And then they slowly add back one food group at a time. And, they come in, people will say, coffee isn't one of the food groups, but it is one of the things. And, people say, no, I can't give up coffee. Can you give up coffee for 3 weeks? Okay. And they'll come back and they'll say, coffee's not good for me. And they're done. Or like, I can't give up my cheese. Give up your cheese for 3 weeks. Deal? Yeah. They come back in. I can't do cheese. Cheese totally messes me up. So yeah. And dietary changes, I find getting that inflammation down, because the inflammation also drives high estrogen levels. High insulin levels drive high estrogen levels. So getting those excess sugars, the junk food, the processed food, cleaning up the gut, it really changes heavy periods.
Yes, I've seen that myself, especially with the sugars and promoting insulin-like growth factor, which is a growth factor. It's going to cause all sorts of issues down the line.
Yeah. The other thing is that the insulin, so estrogen circulates bound to a protein called sex hormone binding globulin. So insulin will actually drive down the level of sex hormone binding globulin, which means there's more free estrogen.
Mm. So flax seeds are one of my favorite ways to help restore or to build up sex hormone binding globulin. Is there anything like that that you use?
I generally go at glycemic control.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's the fiber aspect of the glycemic control is with the flax, right?
Yep. Or one of them, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think zinc might also play a role in there as well.
Mm-hmm. And I also look like if there really is some altered, high insulin levels, I like to use inositol.
Ah, yes.
Like a small scoop of that. Cinnamon is also a good one.
Or your berberine containing herbs. They're quite nice too, and chromium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Beth, I know you've been working on something that's quite exciting and coming up very soon. Did you want to talk about the Menopause Connection?
Oh, my summit. I'm so excited. It's been so much fun. I knew I wanted to do a summit, and I started reaching out to various people like you. And I've met so many lovely people who are wealths of knowledge. And I've learned so much doing this summit. It's a 14-day summit. So we're looking at all the issues, all the ways that I look at in functional medicine to address menopausal signs and symptoms and to optimize the experience for everyone. And it's 14 days with an hour of interviews every day. If I've done summits before where it's like all day, 8 hours a day. And I think we're all pretty tech burned out at this point after the pandemic. So I wanted to create something that, you could listen to the interview on your way to work or while you're getting ready in the morning or when you come home or when you're going to the grocery store. It's just enough to get some information that you can digest a little bit and then have some more information the next day. So there are, how many speakers? I think there are 24 speakers, and we are spreading them out over 14 days. So some speakers are 30-minute interviews, some are 60, and so much information. I've been taking so many notes, learning so many things.
I always find that at a summit, even coming in as a menopause expert, I find that I learn so much more because everyone views things slightly differently, or maybe they know a little tip that I don't know. So even as a practitioner, I love it. And the feedback I've had from other women is that it's just so wonderful to know that there's so many other options out there, and that really a team approach is the best approach. So you might find that maybe you're going to learn maybe about diet, but then you find out actually maybe my muscular health has something to do with it, and maybe I want to do some exercise or go and see a chiropractor or something different. There's just so many different ways to approach it, and my personal belief is no one person can be everything. That a team approach, when you've got multiple different people working on the same problem from a different view, you tend to get faster, more longer term results. So I'm really excited to actually be one of the viewers as well, to sit there and to just soak up all this information. Now, we haven't mentioned when it starts. So we know we've got 14 days and we've got an hour a day.
Yeah. So we're starting on July 14th on Bastille Day. The other super exciting thing for me is that there are experts from all over the world. So English speak, Canada, Ireland,
Australia.
Australia, UK, United States. That's been pretty fun too, finding that common ground with everyone. Yeah, so the 14th through the 28th, and we're going to have one or two pre-summit teaser interviews, and they'll be sprinkled in during the promotion time, which is the 1st through the 13th of July. And we'll have, you can listen to the interviews that day or the next day, but they're not going to run. You're not going to be able to listen to all of them all the time because they're going to expire. And if you want to buy the package of all the interviews, lifetime access to all the interviews, it's super affordable, $47. And you'll get access to all the interviews, and then another interview that I'm doing with Dr. John Gray, who has really a long history of relationship perspective with men and women and hormones. He's been doing some very interesting research lately. Some extra free gifts. Every speaker has a free gift to offer. So just like a treasure trove of so many resources.
And I like that that's, again, meeting a woman where she's at. If she wants to just listen to them while they're live, it's only an hour a day. You can fit that in. You can actually listen to all that information. And if you hear one that you're like, oh, I need to keep this, I need to listen to this again and again and again, you have that option. So thank you for making that available, affordable, and for actually doing all the hard work. Like, it's hard work to put a summit together and bring everyone together and collect all their information. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I haven't had a party. Not that I'm a huge party giver, but occasionally it's nice to bring people together. I haven't done that for 2.5 years. So this is our party.
And you know what? It's a party that most of the world couldn't come to if you had it at your place. So by doing it online, it's a global event. I love it. There have been some good things that have come out of COVID, and I think making that world seem that bit smaller, more connected, has been good. So, Dr. Beth, how can women reach you? How can they find you if they've decided, yes, I live in Arizona, it's worth the drive to Flagstaff? How do I get there?
So you don't even have to come to Flagstaff for the first appointment. And my practice is flagstafffunctionalmedicine.com. If you don't want to write all that out, you can put in flagfunmed.com. It goes to the same site. And we generally start with what's called a discovery phone call. So 30 minutes, discovery phone calls, $50. It's just a small investment in time where we can talk, see what's going on with you, decide whether it's a good fit, if they have the resources to, the investment to do what needs to be done, see if their issues, their problems seem like something that I could address. So just to see if we're a good match, a good fit. And then from there, we move into what's called a foundational assessment. And that's the big questionnaires, all the questionnaires, and then the lab tests, and then the meeting. We can even do those online if someone couldn't come. And those are classified as a consultation. So you don't have to be an Arizona resident to do a foundational assessment.
Can she be overseas, or does she have to be in the States?
I think I can't order labs overseas. It gets into that lab gray area. And as the practice of functional medicine grows, I think it's going to be more and more available. But I know that there are limitations in certain countries where we can't do things like that. There's states in the United States that are very limited. So we can't order labs in New York, for example. People have to like go to New Jersey or a neighboring state and do their labs, send them in there, and then go back home to New York, which it seems so inconvenient. But people really want it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's just so interesting to hear about your background, and it's so lovely to know that there is a doctor out there that is very open-minded and can give you the options and meet you where you are and give you baby steps so that you can conquer your own health journey. So thank you for being you. And
you're welcome. And there are other physicians like me. They're not a lot, but there are. And if you wanted to find a functional medicine physician in your area, you could go to IFM, Institute for Functional Medicine, ifm.org, and find a practitioner.
That's a great tip. Well, thank you and enjoy the summit.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jen.
You're welcome. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Menopause Natural Solutions. This podcast contains general information about menopause. It is provided as a guide, and it is not intended to replace medical advice. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend.